Look who just walked into the Pentagon's problem file. So they finally opened one on you. Not a threat file, not a surveillance file, a decision file, a file specifically about how you choose. And there is a woman in Arlington, Virginia right now who has been assigned to it. Her name doesn't matter. Her security clearance does. And the level of her clearance is such that reading the folder she is holding right now would be a federal crime for you or anyone you love. She has been on your case for 11 months. 11 months of watching a person she has never met make choices that shouldn't be possible for someone with your profile. And this morning, 16 minutes into her second cup of coffee, she pushed back from her desk, walked to her supervisor's office, and said the sentence that changed the classification of your entire file. We're not looking at a person. We're looking at a decision-making system that shouldn't exist in a civilian population. Let that land for a second.
Yeah, it's okay. Fire him, go ahead. Put him on the fucking street for all I care.
Let it settle in your bones. Because while you were making toast this morning, while you were checking a text you didn't respond to, while you were choosing which route to take to work for reasons you couldn't articulate if someone put a gun to your head, a Pentagon subunit was updating your file with a red tab classification that requires 2 signatures to even open. Here's what they see when they look at you. They see someone who should be predictable. On paper, you check every box for predictability. Your income bracket has a decision tree. Your age has a decision tree. Your geography, your education, your search history, your grocery receipts, every demographic input you generate has been mapped, cross-referenced, correlated with 40 years of behavioral data from millions of people who look exactly like you on paper. And that model, that beautiful, expensive $12 million model, says you should behave in a very specific way. It predicts your Tuesday. It predicts your Thursday. It predicts what you'll do when you're tired, what you'll say when you're angry, who you'll trust, who you'll cut off. It predicts your entire operating system, and then you wake up and you do the opposite. Not sometimes, systematically, with a pattern too clean to be chance and too weird to be strategy. That's the file. That's why the file exists. That's why she has a migraine.
Your clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
Let me tell you what triggered the reclassification, because they didn't open this file when you were young. They didn't open it during your obvious crises. They didn't open it when you were loud, when you were falling apart, when you were making mistakes anyone could have predicted. They opened it during a period they had already labeled dormant, which means the thing you were doing that got their attention was something you thought was nothing. It was a Wednesday. You made a choice, something small, something you couldn't even reconstruct now if I asked you to. You said no to something. You said yes to something else. You waited 72 hours before responding to a message when their model said you would respond in 11 minutes. You bought something you had never bought before, at a store you had never been to. Something in that pattern, the specific combination of that specific microset of choices.
Surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
Was so statistically improbable that their algorithm flagged it as a data corruption error. Twice. It flagged you as broken data because your behavior looked more like a bug than a person. And that's when they pulled the file. Now, let's talk about who they actually are. Because I know what you're picturing. You're picturing men in dark suits, satellite footage, black cars idling at intersections. It's not that. It's boring. It's fluorescent lighting and lukewarm coffee. It's a woman in her 40s with a lanyard and a stress rash. It's a supervisor who used to work counterintelligence and is now managing analysts who look at behavioral files all day for a subunit whose name I couldn't give you if I wanted to. It's an interagency framework nobody outside of 4 rooms has ever heard of. but that's what makes it terrifying, not the drama. The bureaucracy. Because bureaucracies don't get excited. Bureaucracies get quiet. And when a bureaucracy this deep in the building starts getting quiet about you, that is not the sound of nothing happening. That is the sound of a room being cleared so the adults can talk. The analyst on your file. Let me tell you what her days look like now. She used to have a life. She used to have a running list of subjects. She used to close cases. She used to go home at 5 and forget the job. Not since you. Her partner has noticed she stopped watching the shows they used to watch together. She's reading during dinner. Reading what? He asked her. Nothing important, she said. But it was you, because your file follows her home now.
There's only one path to peace.
Not physically. She's not that kind of stupid. Mentally, she has started dreaming in decision trees. She has started running your logic on choices she is making in her own life. She caught herself yesterday, standing in her kitchen, doing what you would do in that moment instead of what she would do, just to see what it felt like. It felt clear, it felt clean, and that scared her more than anything in the file. Here's the part they can't put in the report. She doesn't understand why your choices work. That's the diagnosis. That's the whole classified page. She has 3 PhDs worth of frameworks for human decision-making, and none of them predict what you do. And yet what you do keeps working, statistically, repeatedly, under conditions where it should not. That's not luck. Luck decays. That's not strategy. Strategy leaves fingerprints. That's something else. And she has started using a word in the private notes she isn't supposed to be keeping. She calls it, very quietly, only to herself, signal.
You got no fucking idea what it's like to be number one. Every decision you make affects every facet of every other fucking thing.
As in, this person is not running on the same signal as everyone else in the data set. As in, something is pinging in your decision-making that her instruments are picking up but can't measure. You want to know what a Pentagon analyst dreams about at 3 in the morning? She dreams about being able to make a decision without a spreadsheet, without a probability weight, without asking permission of a framework built by men who never had to face the situation the decision is about. She dreams about doing what you do at breakfast. She has spent her entire career building the model, and you, sitting on your couch, tired, half-dressed, half-caffeinated, doing what you do. You are the ghost in her model. You are the variable she cannot force to converge. And when she goes to her supervisor and she says, "I need more time on this file," the supervisor doesn't ask why. He just signs off. Because the last 3 analysts who tried to close the case ended up requesting reassignment. Let me walk you through the actual decision-making patterns they cannot decode. Because this is the meat of it. This is the reason a subunit of the world's most well-funded surveillance apparatus has a person and a room dedicated to figuring you out. They watched you tolerate something for years. Years. Their model classified you as compliant, passive, unlikely to escalate, filed it, moved on. Then one morning, no warning, no buildup, no visible provocation, you stopped. Not with a fight, not with a speech. You just stopped. And you didn't undo it, didn't second guess it, didn't cycle back. The model said the probability of you doing that on that day, without a triggering event, was 0.3%. 0.3. That number lives in a memo now. That number kept somebody up. They watched you forgive someone once, and they thought, that's it, back to baseline. She's going to fold. Back she goes into the passive column. Then they watched you forgive them without ever letting them near you again. And their model doesn't have a category for that. In their framework, forgiveness and access are the same variable.
Surely you didn't think I was going to keep my filthy muggle father's name.
In yours, they're not even related. That on its own generated a subroutine. They watched you stay in a job everyone said you should leave, filed you as fear-based, risk-averse, stuck. Then they watched you leave 3 months later on a schedule so precise it looked planned, and they went back and realized you had been planning it the entire time. You weren't stuck, you were waiting. You were building the exit while they were writing you off as immobile. And they had to write in a footnote, "Subject appears to operate on delayed execution logic," which is a phrase they invented for you because their existing vocabulary didn't cover it. They watched you say yes to things that looked like weakness, and then those yeses turned into leverage 9, 10, sometimes 14 months later. And they had to open a new theory branch called Long Horizon Strategic Compliance, which basically means this person is saying yes now because she has already run the calculation for 18 months from now, and we cannot follow her math. Do you see what's happening here? Do you see what your regular Tuesday looks like from inside that room? Every choice you have ever second-guessed, every decision people rolled their eyes at, every quiet no you had to justify to a group of people who never respected your reasons. Every time you were told you were overthinking, overanalyzing.
The sheep, you gotta catch the wolf. And it takes a wolf to catch a wolf, you understand?
Being too careful, taking too long, being paranoid, being dramatic, being cold. Every single one of those moments is now in a file that requires 3 signatures to access. Because it turns out you weren't overthinking. You were running counterintelligence on a room full of people who thought they were smarter than the room. It turns out you weren't paranoid. You were doing real-time threat assessment on inputs that other people were choosing to ignore because ignoring them was more socially convenient. It turns out you weren't cold. You were operationally selective. And the analyst on your file has written the word operationally in the margin of every 3rd page. Here's the beautiful part, the part that will keep her supervisor at that desk long after his shift ends.
Here's to 5 miserable months on the wagon and all the irreparable harm that it's caused me.
You don't know you're doing this. You don't have a manual. You don't have a mentor. You didn't get this from a school. You don't sit down and calculate. You just look at a situation, and something in you tells you the answer, and you follow it, and it works. And everyone around you either resents you for it or copies you 6 months later, once the consequences of not listening to you have caught up with them. That is not learnable behavior. That is not trainable. That is not the kind of thing you can install into an operative. It has to grow. It has to be forged. It has to come from surviving something.
Motherfucker.
Tony, come on! Listen to somebody else for a change.
Fuck him.
And refusing to let the survival make you dumb. And that's what she's staring at when she stares at your file. She is staring at a person the system did not build, a person the system did not sanction, a person the system did not authorize. And that person keeps making decisions that outperform the system. And she cannot report that to her supervisor in those words. So she reports it in bureaucratic language. And the bureaucratic language keeps getting more careful. And the file keeps getting thicker. And the meetings about the file keep getting quieter. And at some point in the last month, someone very high up in a room I could not tell you the location of asked one question about you that made everyone else in the room stop typing. He asked, "Is this person aware of what they're doing?" And she said, "And I have to tell you this because it matters." She said, "No, not consciously. The subject is operating on something below the level of articulation. The subject would not be able to explain their own decision-making if asked directly." And that answer scared everyone at the table more than any yes could have. Because a person who knows they have that ability can be recruited, can be flipped, can be negotiated with. A person who doesn't know they have it, and it works anyway, that's not something you handle. That's something you observe.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava bean and a nice Chianti.
That's something you make sure never gets weaponized by anyone else. That's something you put a very, very quiet file on and hope stays a file. And here is what your enemies do not understand. Here is the thing your abuser, your ex, your family, the coworker who tried to sabotage you, the friend group that iced you out. Here is what none of them will ever know. While they were sitting in their kitchens rehearsing what they were going to say about you next, while they were coordinating their little narrative in their little group chat, while they were building their case against your name in rooms nobody with real power was ever going to walk into, a room with real power was already open. And in that room, your decisions were being studied not as evidence of your instability, but as evidence of an intelligence they cannot replicate. In that room, your silence was being cataloged as strategy. In that room, your isolation was being measured as insulation. In that room, the very qualities the people around you used to dismiss you were being flagged as the reason you would outlast every single one of them. They thought you were losing. They thought you were slipping. They thought your patience was collapse. They looked at you sitting there quiet, and they whispered to each other that you had finally broken. And a woman with a security clearance so high she can't tell her husband what she does for a living was on her 4th cup of coffee writing a note to her supervisor that said, "Subject's most recent behavioral cluster suggests not degradation, but consolidation," which is government English for, "She is not falling apart, she is finishing something." You know what the file's title used to be? Just your name and a case number. You know what it's called now, internally, in the break room, in the private conversations.
Choke on your aspirations, Director.
In the encrypted chats between the two analysts who are obsessed with you. It's called the question, because you are the question their model was not built to answer. You are the question that made them realize the model was small. You are the question that got a young analyst promoted out of the room she started in because she was the only one who suggested, very gently, very carefully, very much off the record, that maybe you are not the anomaly, maybe the model is. And here is where I want you to breathe. Because I know what happens when you hear this. I know the part of you that will try to twist this into pressure. I know you will read this as one more thing you have to live up to. Don't. That's the opposite of what's happening. What's happening is this. The way you already are, the way you already move, the way you already choose, that is what got their attention. Not the version of you that tries harder. Not the version of you that performs. Not the version of you that explains yourself. The version that is just, quietly, going about the ordinary business of your life, making the choices only you understand. That is the version of you that is generating classified paperwork. So when you sit down tonight, when you make the small choice, when you say the small no, when you take the strange route home, for no reason you could name, remember that somewhere in a building with no signage, a woman is watching that data point come in on her screen and shaking her head and writing another note her supervisor won't understand, and closing her laptop, and going home to a dinner she will eat in silence because she is thinking about you. You didn't do anything to earn this. You didn't audition. You didn't perform. You just kept making the choices that felt right to you, over and over, in rooms where nobody was applauding, in years where nobody was watching, in a life the rest of them had already written off. And you kept being right. You kept being right in a way that leaves no fingerprints, in a way that looks like nothing until you look at it from very high up, from high enough up to see the pattern, from high enough up to see the shape. They see the shape now. They can't unsee it. They can't file it away. They can't classify it into the drawer they were hoping it fit into. And they can't come to you. That's the part that keeps her supervisor pacing his office at 3 in the morning. They can't approach you. They can't recruit you. They can't ask you to explain yourself. Because the moment you become aware of what you're doing,
Go check out the snowcat in the radio and you'll see what I mean.
they lose the very thing they are studying. Your value to them is that you don't know. Your danger to them is that one day you might. And you know what? You might. You might be watching this, and you might be feeling something click into place. You might be feeling a quiet, cold, clean recognition of everything I have just said. You might be realizing that every choice you have ever been ashamed of, every instinct you have ever apologized for, every gut feeling you have ever overridden because someone louder was in the room, all of it was signal. All of it was you running an operating system nobody around you could read. All of it was you doing the work the model couldn't. They opened a file on how you make decisions because your decisions cannot be explained by anything else in the file room. And now that file just sits there, growing, quietly, one Tuesday at a time, one small choice at a time, one strange calm no at a time. And you're not in the file room, you're not in the building, you're on your couch, you're at your kitchen table, you're on the drive home. You're doing the ordinary invisible work of being the person nobody could figure out. And somewhere across the country, a woman closes a folder, turns off her monitor, and sits in the dark for a long moment before she stands up. She doesn't know your face. She knows your patterns better than anyone in your life ever will. And the last thing she thinks about before she leaves the office tonight is not the case. It's the question she is not allowed to ask you, which is the same question you have been asking yourself, quietly, for years, without ever getting an answer. How did you know? You didn't. You never did. You just kept choosing, and the choosing was enough.